Hey guys, thank you for joining me. Today we have a 2012 Acura MDX with the 3.5 engine. This is a very similar engine that you would see in a lot of the Acura TLs, Honda Accords, Pilots, Odysseys, etc. 3.5, 3.2, 3.7, they're all basically kind of the same. Today, this engine has a major noise. It started off as a faint noise. I thought personally, in my professional opinion, it was the typical timing belt system problem where the timing belt hits 100,000 miles, the tensioner goes bad, so I wanted to show you this. So normally if you get one of these in, and I am going to start this up and show you the noise in just a second, if you hear like a or a vibration noise or even like a rotational bearing noise, especially earlier in the morning and then it kind of goes away, it's normally the timing belt. Now this is an ASIN timing belt kit. I've already changed the timing belt on this vehicle. It's not the problem, there's an additional problem, but I just want to go into this real quick. Typically it's the hydraulic tensioner. Now this particular vehicle has already had an ASIN kit put in it. It has just over, I believe, 105,000 miles on it, which is obviously due for a timing belt. Now I did change this. There was nothing wrong with this kit. The tensioner was starting to leak a little bit of oil. It was starting to make like a slight vibration noise, but not the one you typically hear when they go bad. Sometimes they make like a purring noise or just a rattle, and you're like, what is that rattle? And it's coming from this area of the timing belt area, which you can easily diagnose with a stethoscope, which you can buy one of these for like 10 bucks anywhere. So at the end of the day, this one has a tick and a bearing noise. So I started with the basic serpentine belt. That's the belt that actually powers your air conditioning and your alternator and your power steering. The tensioner pulley was a little worn. It had the original miles on it. I mean, you're talking almost 200,000 miles, and it was starting to go bad. This is a brand new one. This is the one I was about to put on it. But what I did is I did what they call breakdown diagnostics. Now, because everything's in that timing belt cover that's around the engine, which is not on there right now, it's really hard to access it. So the only thing you can do is take the stethoscope and actually go on one of the serpentine belt pulleys, and I did that. And sometimes you'll find that the pulley is bad, which is this device, starting to go bad and the bearing starting to fail, or the AC clutch. Very, very popular. You could barely see it down there. If I throw some light on the subject, you'll see it right there on the bottom. So you get the alternator, and then underneath that's the AC compressor pulley. Now you could easily take the belt off, and while it's cold, and you could actually just spin them and just see rotational noise if there's any bearing noise, and maybe that's your issue. For the most part, it's the timing belt tensioner. It's really hard to see in there. There's a lot of other videos, but right there, see that silver cylinder object next to the variable valve timing solenoid? That goes bad. Now, part of it's sticking out of the timing belt cover, and you can actually tell with a stethoscope if that's the issue. Now, when I diagnosed this, I didn't feel confident that the noise that you're about to hear in this engine was that. I had a feeling it was actually something to do with the camshaft, whether it was rear or front. But at the time, this pulley was making some slight noise. The old one I've already discarded. And at the time, this tensioner had a little bit of vibration in it, and the squeaking that it's making like a slight squeaking noise. Again, you'll hear it in just a second. I thought it was the water pump. I mean, it had 100K on it. And now I've already changed the timing belt kit, and I left the cover off. I put the harmonic balancer on so I could run the car, because you can't run it without it because it keeps the timing belt in line. And when I did that, I could still hear the squeaking noise, and I could still hear the ticking noise, which I'm like 99% sure it's the actual camshaft in the back. I've seen that with the roller rockers and the followers go bad. But I'm showing this on the water pump and the timing belt kit because it's tough to diagnose this, and you don't know until you take the cover off and start to do reverse diagnostics. Now, this car was applicable for a timing belt kit anyways. It already is 105,000. It's due. And granted, even if you look at the weep hole in the water pump, it was starting to weep a little bit of sludge. Never weeped antifreeze, but you can see the sludge. That's a telltale sign that this thing's about to go south. That means the seal is starting to get compromised, and it's got wear and tear. But there is no squeaky noise, there's no play in the pulley, even the tensioner pulley, there's some chatter marks. Some of these older ones, you actually had to modify the motor mount to avoid this idle pulley right here. There's actually a shim that goes behind this. It's only on a couple of models. You have to look it up for service bulletins, but usually it's anything before 2009, I believe. So at the end of the day, I replaced the kit, and then I ran the car, which is what I'm going to do for you, and I'm going to start this up, and you're going to get to hear this. And if you hear this noise, it's typically the cam, and it's typically the follower, but the noise was so loud with the the tensioner vibrating just slightly, and this idler pulley was tough to distinguish, and that's why I did what I did. So right now, you're actually going to see this run. I mean, if the serpentine belt's not on it, so we can't run it for too long. The alternator will, it won't charge the battery, but you'll actually hear it. And I want you to listen real closely, because if you're having this issue, if you're hearing the sound, you may actually have the same issue. Now, sometimes it's the front cam, and sometimes the rear cam. And the way it happens is because people keep on doing these extended synthetic oil changes, or maybe they're not using high quality oil to begin with. And I've seen this a couple of times, high mileage Hondas and Acuras, and what happens is they start doing these 8 to 12,000 mile oil changes, and eventually you end up shitting out a cam lobe or end up being a roller rocker. They're saying it's a manufacturer's defect. I don't honestly 100% believe that, but hey, anything's possible. I believe it's because of the oil changes. I do service this truck, and I do the oil changes on this particular vehicle. Typically, they're here every 5,000 miles, but there's been a few times they didn't show up until about 9,000 miles. That maintenance reminder light was on for quite some time. So, with that being said, I will start the car up. I'm going to leave this in real time. So we're going to go into the car. Right now it sounds good, but listen real closely. It's very important. You're going to hear a tick, and there's a squeak. Almost sounds like a lower rod bearing is going bad. And a tickety tap is usually a roller rocker lifter going bad along with the cam lobe. But the only way to know is you got to remove this harness, you got to pop the valve cover off and do a visual inspection. Same thing with the front. It's the only way you'll know. Now, you could change the cam if you do diagnose that that's the case. You could take this all apart, and believe it or not, you remove the timing belt, obviously without smacking the valve, and you can remove the cam out the back. That's what I did on the last one. Okay, I ran that long enough. Now keep in mind with this car, I have changed the oil. I have cut the original oil filter apart just to make sure there was no metal flakes, because I want to make sure the motor's not degrading. And it's fine. The oil was clean. The oil only had 2,000 miles on it since the last oil change, so it only had 2K on that last oil change, full synthetic. And unfortunately, it's got this issue. It just started up, and now we are going to dive into this, and I will update you. Okay guys, we're back with the 2012 Acura MDX, and to my suspicion, the camshaft and the roller rocker are bad. So let me show you. So this is what it looks like. Let me go back here. Now, I did remove the plenum so I can get to the valve cover. That's that device right there. So I removed the upper intake, the plenum, the cover, the airbox, the induction, and removed the rockers. So the rocker assembly sits right here. I'm going to show you that next. Okay. Like I said, if you're having this squeaky and ticky-tappy noise and it's not your timing belt tensioner, this is what it is. Now, this cam rocker assembly is flipped on, it's upside down. So for instance, this is the back part of the head, so this is the driver's side of the vehicle, okay? This is where the timing belt resides right here. So this is the front of the engine, okay? And like I said, this is the back head, but this is upside down, so I flipped it, okay? So I know it, don't want to confuse anybody. So what usually happens is it's an exhaust cam lobe. So like I said, it's flipped over, so the exhaust goes out the back, and it's usually one of the exhaust ones. I've seen this happen a couple times, and usually it's these back ones. This is more towards the rear of the engine. Now look at the discoloration, right? Now you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see what's going on here. These people actually take pretty good care of their engine. Look how clean that is, right? That is very, very, very clean, very, very, very clean, and look how dark it gets. You can tell there's some lack of oil and starvation. I'm going to show you on the cylinder head as well. You could just tell. Look at that, right? So this is cylinder 1, cylinder 2, cylinder 3. Look how dark that is. So this is the exhaust roller rocker right there, and look how pitted that is. Let's give you a good zoom. That thing is shot. Absolutely shot. If I go to another one that's actually a good one that has no issues, look at that. I mean, there's a little bit of dust on there, which this will all be clean before I put it back in. And then this is on the intake side. The intake ones never have the issue. It's always the exhaust ones. Now there's two different styles on these. On the side, it'll say either A or B. See right there, it says B or A. So this particular one, the one that's bad, I'm sorry because I'm using a camera phone, is an A. See that right there? It's an A. So that's so when you go to order the parts from Acura, they're going to say, all right, is it an A or B, cam lobe? That's an A. And then look at so if you just do a quick visualize, that doesn't look that bad, then you see that. Okay, so you got to look really close. So now let's show you on the cylinder head. Now look how clean, right? Clean, carboned up, okay? This is obviously an oil starvation issue. To my knowledge, this engine has never ran low on oil. I think this is a factory defect. So I got the light on the cam. Now, a good cam, like this one, this is a good one. Nice and smooth, right? It's beautiful, okay? Now I'll show you the one that's bad. Let me move my light over. That's the one that's bad. Look at that. It's got a ridge. Look at that. There's a groove in it. So that's why it was ticking and tapping. And the reason why it was squeaking is because the bearing was going bad in the roller rocker. So yeah, that's bad. Look at that one's a good one. Even though it's the very last one, you would assume this one probably would take the hit, but it didn't. Look at that. That is really bad. Now look real close on the cylinder, right? We'll get some good light here. If I go towards the front where the timing belt side is, look how clean that is. Even the spark plug tube, right? So that's number 1 cylinder, number 2 cylinder. Look at number 3. See that carbon? You can tell there's some kind of it's either hotter or lack of oil. Even the top of the valve, look at that. See how it's all dark and carboned up, but then the one next to it, not that bad, even though it's near the ones that went bad. And then if I go in the back, look how carboned up that is. Something's amiss there. I've noticed this before working on these, but that's the issue, guys. So in order to fix this properly, I literally have to put the engine in the top dead center. I got to disconnect the timing belt, the brand new one I stuck on there. I got to remove the bolt from the cam pulley. And then what we do is we take this cam cap off in the back here. It's only a couple of bolts. Take the cam cap off and you clear the path. And if you look at that camshaft, I think she's anywhere from 15 to 20 inches long. And then we slide it through. And then all you need to do is order a new O-ring for this cam cap, a new cam seal. You throw the new cam in, put the timing belt back on because you don't want to mess with the timing. And then once we torque down, and obviously we're going to change that roller rocker, so we got to take it apart, slide that new one in, doesn't take long. Put it all together, torque down the whole rack assembly, and then I literally have to adjust every single valve because of the new cam. But the car is due for a valve adjustment anyway, so I'm going to hit it off regardless. Put a new valve cover gasket, new intake gasket, which is under here. This is just protecting dirt and bad juju from getting in there, which will be rechecked anyways. But yeah, that's it. So if you have one of these engines, this is the 2012 Acura MDX with a 3.7. It's a common issue. Hopefully you don't have to go through this, but at least you know what it takes to fix it. Okay, to complete this job, this is what makes it possible. There is the new camshaft. Okay, this is the part number. Remember, this is the rear camshaft for the 2012 Acura MDX. It came in this box, sealed in a bag, actually wrapped in a anti-corrosive paper, sealed in a bag, and then sealed in this aluminum foil, which is crazy. They definitely sealed in the flavor and freshness for this camshaft. The other parts that are necessary for this is an O-ring seal. This is for the cam cap. This is the cap that's actually on the back of the head. See that little O-ring right there? This is where the cam's gonna come out the back. That's the part number for that O-ring. Then right here, this is the roller rocker that failed. And that letter is an A. If you look, I don't know if you see in the bag, see that A1? Okay, so there's that part number right there. And then this right here is the cam seal. Since it's got 180K and we're taking this off, we're changing the cam seal. So at the same time, and then of course, because the valve cover is off, we need a valve cover kit. So this is the whole kit right here. Includes the valve cover, the grommets, and you get the spark plug tube seals, which aren't really, you can't see them too well, but it's just a big rubber O-ring that goes over the spark plug tube seal so no oil leaks into where the spark plugs are located. I'm also changing the spark plugs on this. They're on their way right now, and we're going to extract this cam and throw this in. I've already pulled the rockers apart, and I was clearing any type of oil galleries. I thought maybe there was an oil gallery in the rocker and then it oiled the roller, but in this case it doesn't seem to be the case. But the oil galleries are free. There's no blockage. We're going to clean this all down, and then we're going to just put this all back together with the new rocker, especially since this one's extremely deteriorated. So I'm going to put that all back together with the shims and the variable valve timing bushings. All right, so that's it. Gonna take out the other one, put this all back together.